Does anyone else remember early this year, in the first few months of 2021, there were leaks of a Mortal Kombat cartoon for kids called Mortal Kombat Ultra Girls? On the Mortal Kombat subreddit, a disappointed person who had worked on the show leaked information about it since Warner Bros., the company behind it, got, quote, cold feet, and it was uncertain if the show would ever be finished or released, despite all the progress that had been made on it. It was an interesting concept of an alternate timeline that would take place at a sort of martial arts high school run by Shang Tsung, where classic characters like Sub-Zero and Kano would be teachers and others would be students, including a main trio, the Ultra Girls themselves, I suppose, Jackie Briggs, Frost, and Cassie Cage. Much like the first Mortal Kombat film, it was going to be a way more kid-friendly version of Mortal Kombat, reflected in the unique art style, one that's totally different from the previous Mortal Kombat cartoon series, Defenders of the Realm, way back in the 90s, and also the new animated movies. I know I saw one person comment that it looks like the Mortal Kombat version of the show DC Superhero Girls, and that is such a ridiculous but fun concept to think about, of Mortal Kombat exploring both positive lessons for the youngsters, but also cramming in lots of lore and Easter eggs for fans of the games. So I really hope it does get finished and released, though I fear the chances are very slim at this point. But I didn't just want to talk about Ultra Girls today, because plenty of other people talked about it far more in depth back when it was actually relevant. So I wanted to talk more about a different Mortal Kombat show that was never released that I don't know if many MK fans have heard of. If you are a fan, you probably have heard of their live-action web series that there were 2 seasons of, Mortal Kombat Legacy. The first season in 2011 explained backstory behind various different characters in each short episode, with some unique twists and experimental original stuff thrown in there as well. And then the second season in 2013 was about the actual Mortal Kombat tournament after all of those backstory events, with a more linear, overarching story, alongside more backstory lore and, again, more creative takes on these characters. Season 2 ended on a cliffhanger, and then there wasn't a third season, except there was supposed to be a third season called Mortal Kombat Generations. It wasn't a conclusion to Season 2, though. It was instead based on the future shown in the game Mortal Kombat X about 20 years later, and this season was set for release in early 2016, confirmed by the director Garrett Warren, but then 2016 came and went with no release despite the show having been fully filmed. Now, the Legacy series was distributed on Machinima's YouTube channel, and perhaps Machinima's slow decline among constant changes and different acquisitions leading to the company's eventual end in 2019 is what has kept Generations from being released this entire time. And now that it's been 5 years later, it's probably too late for it to ever get an official release, unfortunately. We did get to know some interesting things about Generations before it faded away from everyone's memory, though. There were some returning cast members from the previous season, like Casper Van Dien as Johnny Cage and Karihiro Yuki Tagawa as Shang Tsung, of course. Ray Park, who was Darth Maul in Star Wars, played Aaron Black, and Louis Tan, who you might now know as the character Cole from the new live-action Mortal Kombat film, played Kung Jin. And you know who played Bo Rai Cho? Eric Roberts. You know what, now I want a Mortal Kombat adaptation where every character is played by Eric Roberts. That would be my dream come true. You can find online a leaked first episode of this third season, though it clearly hasn't gone through all of the post-production since it's lacking sound effects and CGI. So I'm not sure if this was an early edit or if the show was never actually ready for release, but this assumedly first episode followed Johnny Cage, Kung Jin, and Cassie and Jackie. It's clear that they were probably hoping to focus on character backstories again, showing more of Kung Jin's origins as a warrior, as well as Cassie's relationship to her parents, with the pressure of living under their shadow and the way Sonya pushed her to succeed, and maybe the way that Johnny having a daughter helped change him for the better. Though I think some of what they did in the first seasons of Legacy was really strange, particularly with Liu Kang in the second season being all like dark and washed up and kind of a villain character, which is very surprising for Liu Kang in Mortal Kombat. There are other character interpretations throughout the show, the alternate stories, and even character designs were pretty interesting. Like, I really love Scorpion's mask here in the first season. So I think their interpretation of the second generation of characters, the combat kids, would have been really interesting to look at, especially while also bringing in other fun characters from MKX like Aaron and Ferrator. It's a real shame that it was all filmed just to never be released. I mean, I'm not exactly a super fan of Legacy, but I still think it's an interesting show, and I love Mortal Kombat in general, so I'd take all the extra content I can get. And the same goes for Ultra Girls. I mean, there are so many different timelines across all of the Mortal Kombat media, and yes, they're filled with inconsistencies, and a lot of people hate that, but I think it's kind of fun to have so many different stories and characterizations with infinite possibilities of new ideas to explore. So I'm totally the person who would be the audience for both of these lost shows, and I just wanted to talk about them briefly if you had either never heard about these leaks before, or you just wanted to join me in dreaming of what they could have been. Perhaps Mortal Kombat shows are always going to be cursed to never be released from now on, who knows? Or maybe just shows about the combat kids. But I'll keep a tiny ounce of hope that these two will see the light of day eventually. Do you wish you could watch these shows? I'd love to know what you think about them. And what would your ideal Mortal Kombat show look like? I think they should just go totally crazy and make a sitcom or something. Just put all the characters in their most caricature form possible and slap on some deadpan humor. That would be perfect, and that's almost what I picture Ultra Girls being like. So please, Warner Brothers, let us have it. I know it's gotta be either really good or really bad, and probably really funny either way. Anyway, that's all I can really say about these shows since there's not much information about them, and other people have already gone more in depth than I have, so I'll say goodbye for now. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you thought it was a fun or interesting few minutes of your life. If not, feel free to get your revenge on me. Have a groovy day, my friends.